Hey, what's up, VC? It's Steve again, Harmless Rebel, and it's time for another episode of What's Spinning. As I mentioned in a few videos now, I'm working a new job with the VA, and for this first year, while I'm working there, I've got to go into the hospital or to my office every day, and it's about an hour to an hour and a half drive daily, both ways. So I've been listening to a lot of CDs. Pulled some stuff out of the collection, and then also just stuff I've been picking up recently. So I wanted to do a quick update and just kind of show some of the stuff that I've been spinning. First and foremost, this was one I just got in VCLT from Scott, and this album's absolutely phenomenal. A little different sound than what they were known for in the 80s. I really want to get their 80s stuff on vinyl, and I can't wait for this to get released on vinyl. As this is one of the projects that Scott Waters is working on for his new label. But this is Banshee, Mind Slave. Just killer metal. Like I said, it's more of a straight up heavy metal than what their 80s stuff was. But this is just a killer album. I spun it 3 or 4 times in a row. And this is going to be in the car for a while. I'm actually going to throw this back in my truck after I do the video, because it has been in heavy rotation, and this is one that I highly recommend picking up. In the background, that new Accept CD came out, or the new Accept album came out. I haven't gotten it yet. I just haven't gotten around to it. There's just so much good stuff coming out right now that's being released on smaller labels and limited numbers, and I want to get that stuff. Whereas stuff like the new Accept is I'll be able to find for years to come. But their last few albums have been phenomenal. Some of the best of their career. And I just pulled this one out to give it a spin. I hadn't listened to it in quite a while. But this is Stalingrad. So if you include their newest CD, this was 3 CDs ago, or 3 albums ago from 2012. But just a killer album. Next up, I wasn't into King's X back in the day when they came out. I wasn't really much for the funk metal. Some of the progressive stuff that I liked. But over the last couple years, I've really gotten into them. And this is an album that I just think is phenomenal. It's actually not really considered one of their better albums. And I think it's because they kind of went more for a mainstream audience with this one. It's not as progressive as their others, as the albums before this, which are some of my favorite. But the band just sounds killer on here, and I'm drawing a blank of Doug Panique. His vocals these are some of my favorite vocals from him. His vocals just sound really powerful in this. But this is Ear Candy from King's X. And it's just a really killer album. This one I was really happy to run across. I ran across this for $1.50. This is a band that I love everything that they've put out for the most part. I've talked about this band before. This is the Mesmerized EP from Extol. So Extol started out as they were a Norwegian black metal band. And over the years, they went from black metal more into a death metal sound, into a progressive death with black metal elements. And their last album from, I don't remember if it was 2014 or 2015, but it was one of the best albums of the year in my opinion. Just phenomenal. What's really crazy about Extol, their first album came out in 97 or 98, but they had been touring together for a few years. And not only were they a Norwegian black metal band, but they were a Christian band too, and they were playing in a lot of the same places that the big name Norwegian metal bands of the time were playing. And it's just pretty crazy that they were part of that same scene that saw some of the more infamous bands come out of. But killer band. And the first 3 tracks on this are the actual EP. You've got Enthralled, The Prodigal Son, and Storms of Disillusions. Phenomenal songs. I love them. And then they did the next 3 songs are Burial, Rehitten's Elv, I don't know, and Work of Art. And they're all electronic, industrial remixes. I remember seeing a review that Scott did where he said that he loves the first 3 songs but can't even listen to the last 3. He said he's never made it through the whole album. And so I challenged myself to make it through the whole album. And the first 3 songs are phenomenal and the last 3 suck. But I was amazed to find this at Second and Charles for $1.50. But if you run across anything by Extol, it's a must-have. Next up, as I've mentioned before, I've been on a huge Motorhead kick. I wonder if there's any more in here. I don't think I'm going to show any more in this video, but all around me there's Motorhead stuff everywhere. This is one I ran across about a month ago for $1.99. So I got the price tag on it, but this is See Me Burning and God Save the Queen off of We Are Motorhead. 2-song singles, so really cool to run across that one. Of course, it's got the for promotional use only. Next up, this one was from Eric Dust. I want to say that he mentioned that this was his favorite Opeth album, and it's fucking killer. I loved it. I'm really getting into Opeth, but the only stuff that I had heard is the stuff I bought on vinyl. I wasn't going back and buying their I think I have another one here too. I wasn't going back and buying the CD stuff. I wanted to get it all on vinyl. But he's got me buying it. I think this is the other one he sent me, but I may be wrong. I may have bought this one on my own after getting the ones that he gave me. I think he sent me this one too, but this is Still Life, I believe, is the other one that he sent me. They're both phenomenal. I love them. There's not much bad I can say about Opeth. I've loved everything that I've gotten or run across from them. So next up, this is another one that Eric sent me. This is Revamp. This is an interesting album. So I'm not usually into the female fronted bands where they go for more of that operatic style of vocal, but I was kind of getting into this one, and about halfway it just had a familiar sound to me, and I couldn't figure it out. And then about halfway through, it dawned on me. This sounds like a Disney princess, like a Disney movie song over melodic death metal music. And once that dawned on me, I really kind of got into it, and I really liked this album. And I gave it a couple spins, and this is one I'd recommend checking out. But it really is funny when you're listening to it. She sounds like she could be a movie character from any of the Disney movies. So that's Revamp. Next up is another one that I picked up. I don't remember what I paid for it, $5 or $6, but I couldn't pass up on it. This is a tour edition copy of Planet Caravan from Metallica. It's got the tour dates on the back, and I love when bands do freebies like this at their tours or when you go see them live. But it's got let's see, Planet Caravan, the album version, By Demons Be Driven, the biomechanical mix, and that's mixed by Godflesh, Heresy Live, and Cowboys from Hell Live, and those are both live from Moscow. I could live without the By Demons Be Driven, but the rest of it is really cool, and I like this black case that it's in. Next up, another band that I've just been listening to nonstop lately. Is this a U.S.? Yeah, U.S. pressing, but this is Jailbreak, Thin Lizzy. I've had it on vinyl forever, and I ran across a copy on at the Goodwill store, so I wasn't going to not grab it. This one also came from Eric Dust. I absolutely love this album. I was really happy when he sent this to me because it's one I really was looking forward to getting on vinyl and had actually forgotten about. And this one is going back in the car as well. This has been in heavy rotation as well. This is new wave of traditional metal band Spellcaster, and just another band that I recommend that you pick up some stuff from. Where did I put that? Sorry. Next up, this is one that I did pick up on my own. And this one kind of threw me for a loop. Because a lot of people complained a few albums ago when Opeth lost their melodic death metal sound, or the death metal side of their the death metal sound, the death metal vocal, and they were shocked. And then I grabbed this, and this is an album I know a lot of people love, from 2003, and there's not a death metal vocal on this. This is Damnation. So I don't know why people were so shocked when they went with a little different style a few albums ago. But another just killer album from Opeth. And again, this is another one that I picked up at Goodwill. This next one, I think all of these are metal for the most part. Except for, no, there's two in here that are not. And this is one of them. This is Lucinda Williams. She's from my hometown. I'm not a huge fan of hers. I shouldn't say my hometown. She's from my parents' hometown. But she has some songs that I really love. And this is her best album by far. This is the only album that I like all the way through. But Concrete and Barbed Wire, Lake Charles, which is about her hometown, which is where my parents are from. Can't Let Go, Metal Firecrackers, Still I Long for Your Kiss. Car Wheels on a Gravel Road. I mean, this is just a solid album. Definitely one to check out. If you're into any of the Lucinda Williams stuff, this is one you need to have. Next up, this is one that I got from Scott. Killer album. Another one that's been in real heavy rotation in the car, and one that's going to have a long-term spot in there with a couple others I listed. This is Savage Wisdom. I don't remember if he said he was trying to work out a deal with them to put this on vinyl, but if not, I think he should. If I remember correctly, this was a local band there in New Mexico. Phenomenal album, though. Next up, this is a one that was only released in the UK and Japan. This is Dio Live, We Rock. This is a live show and then a DVD. Let me see. And I want to say... No, it's not. It's a really good mix. So it's got all the hits. But you've got Heaven and Hell, Stargazer, Holy... that's what it was. So this is Holy Diver in its entirety on the A side. And then the B side... And that was recorded in 85, let's see, in San Jose. And then the last three tracks were recorded in Philly in 84. And then the DVD is kind of a mix. It does have the entire Holy Diver album, but there's also some other stuff mixed in there as well, including, which I mentioned in another video, Jesus, Mary, and the Holy Ghost, which is my favorite Dio song. But really cool album cover. This was only available in Japan originally, and it went for pretty crazy money. And then Candlelight in the UK finally did a pressing of it. Next up, we got Mastodon. I still haven't bought this on vinyl. I've given it a few spins. I like it. I don't think it's as good as Once More Around the Sun. And I've mentioned this before, I think they just overdo all of their stuff. It's overproduced. They put too many elements, too many time signatures. I like the band, don't get me wrong. I like all the stuff except their first album that they've released. They don't have the replayability that they should have for a band that I like as much as I do. They're all phenomenal musicians. It just feels like my ears are being overstimulated when I listen to their music. It's just so much to take in. They do so much layering of their sound, and it gets to me after a while. This is a good album, though. Don't get me wrong. I really enjoyed it. They're just a great band. Actually, and I'm still kicking myself. They did a live release here at Criminal Records where they were signing copies of this, which I went to the release party for Once More Around the Sun and got it signed. And I wish I'd have done the same for this. I don't remember what came up, but I ended up doing that instead. Next up, just one of the classic thrash albums. I love this album. I hadn't listened to it in a long time, so I pulled it out and gave it a couple of spins. This is a Handle with Care from Thrash Masters, Nuclear Assault. I almost said Nuclear Blast. This is the other non-metal one that's going to be in here, and this is a Mel DeMay Love Tattoo. I really dig this chick. More of a throwback 50s rockabilly type of sound. She's on Verve, and I just really dig her. This isn't my favorite album of hers. Her last one I think is a little bit better, but still just a really good solid album. So this next one, this band got a lot of hate when they came out for being a copycat and for copying the bands like Iron Maiden and just the 80s bands. And in reality, I think this was the first new wave of traditional metal band, even though they didn't get credit for it. And part of their problem is what happened with their second album, and I'll get to that in a minute. But this is Light From Above from Black Tide. And these guys were, I think, 15, 16, and 17 when they released this album. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they were young. And a lot of people just gave them crap for being a copycat band, copying their or emulating their the 80s bands that they really loved, which is kind of sad because then White Wizard came out the next year and everybody talked about how amazing they were for doing the exact same thing. But if you haven't heard this first album, Light From Above from Black Tide, you really should, especially if you're into the new wave of traditional metal bands. It's a great album, and it just got panned because of what it was at the time. That wasn't the style yet. They were really ahead of their time. Even if they were just kind of copying those earlier bands, they did a great job, especially for such young kids. And unfortunately, they put out their second album and decided to glom on to the metalcore trend. I don't know what they were thinking. Had they stuck with the new wave of traditional metal for their subsequent albums, I think they would be just as big now as bands like White Wizard. Because they did a really good job, and as they progressed in their musicianship and got better, I think they would have just put out better and better releases. Unfortunately, they decided to go the wrong route. Next up, the Neon God from WASP. Went ahead and pulled this out and gave it a spin. It had been a number of years since I listened to this one. I've never heard Neon God Part 2, though, oddly enough. I still need to get a copy of that. I just never run across it. I've actually got multiple copies of this one, oddly enough. Next up, an absolute masterpiece. I don't know what I was thinking. I never bought any albums from this band because I thought for some reason that they were one of those operatic metal bands. I don't know why. And the odd thing is, half of this band is from one of my all-time favorite bands. But this is Nevermore, Dead Heart and a Dead World. And this is the first album from them that I've gotten. And it's absolutely amazing. Actually, I just picked up another one of their albums on vinyl. So now I'm on the hunt for everything Nevermore. Let's see. Oh, am I mixing stuff up? Okay. Next up, White Trash. Pretty good alternative metal here. I remember, it's been about a month since I listened to this. I remember liking it and being shocked that I have never heard of them. But I can't remember much about the album. Maybe I need to give this one another spin. If you guys have heard this, tell me what your thoughts are on it. Next up, Tales from the Punch Bowl. It's funny. This isn't out because I just told the story. I just told a story for Andy's from Andy's Vinyl Den I told the story about seeing them live on this tour. I had actually listened to this about a month ago in the truck, and that's why this is out. But go back and check out that video for Andy's contest, because I tell a story about this show that's it's just a really cool story. And then last but not least for this episode is my favorite album from this band. I love this album to death. Every single song on here is a masterpiece in my eyes. But this is 1919 Eternal from Black Label Society. I'm trying to remember, I think Robert Trujillo actually played bass on this one before joining Metallica. Let's see if it says. Zakk Wylde, obviously. Christian Wurr. And Zakk did a lot of bass on this himself. So a lot of these songs, let's see. Zakk Wylde. Yeah, Robert Trujillo. 1, 2. I guess it was only on 2 of the songs. I thought he did more. So Zakk played most of the bass on this in the studio. But Robert Trujillo played on a few songs, which actually makes sense. I never pieced it together in my head. At the time, Robert was playing for Ozzy Osbourne, as was Zakk. So, and I can't remember if it was this tour. I don't think it was. This was 2002. No, it was 2005. I actually saw Black Label Society play right before Ozzy at one of the Ozfests. And I don't know how Zakk did 2 sets like that. But it was basically almost 4 hours. It may have been 3.5 hours of him solid playing, you know. But did a killer job. But 1919 Eternal. And what we're listening to in the background, just a great album. This is on Rox Records. This is Biogenesis, A Decadence Divine. I may have played this on a previous video, but I just felt like listening to it again. It's a great album. That's it, VC. I will talk to you soon.